What is the best nutrition for someone wanting to conquer diabetes? The best nutrition for someone wanting to conquer diabetes is, and these are the 3 essential food groups: high fibre. All plant foods have fibre, and what fibre does is slowly releases the glucose. That's what the diabetic wants. But particularly the proteins are very important. And the plant protein is the best protein. There's your beans, or sometimes called legumes, nuts, and they're not hard to eat, are they? Delicious. Seeds. I aim for about 8 to 10 nuts every meal. They're my 2 main meals. Most people don't eat nuts you don't know fortnight, do you? 2 weeks? They don't eat nuts for 2 weeks, buy a bag of cashews, eat the whole lot in the afternoon, is that right? So just take 8 to 10 every meal. It's a lovely dessert, is a handful of nuts. Fats. And your best fats come from your nuts, come from your seeds, come from your olive and coconut oils. There is a fat, and I should have put this on the stop list. But if you've written a stop list, you can add it, and that is your altered oils. We talked about them a bit last night, and how they're contributing to the damage of the arterial walls, contributing to high blood pressure and heart disease and strokes. Those damaged oils are also very damaging for the pancreas, so they must stop. So there's your best nutrition. And low. Keep the carbohydrates low. And if you are having a high fibre, beans every day, nuts and seeds every meal, good fats, that automatically will be a low carbohydrate diet. Instead of having 2 cups of rice and 1 cup of lentils, have half a cup of rice, 2 cups of lentils and a big salad. So you just change the ratios. Moderation. Moderation in all the good things. Exercise. Exercise and the change in diet can quickly turn around insulin resistance. And I want to show you why. So how do we quickly turn around insulin resistance? I touched on it last night. Last night I touched on a form of exercise that is the high intensity interval training. And we looked at that in reference to heart. But I want to show you how it directly affects the inside workings of the cell, having a dramatic effect on blood glucose levels. So as the name implies, these are intervals of high intensity, intervals of recovery, and usually done for a cycle. 30 seconds is usually the rule of thumb. If you think 30 seconds isn't very long, try doing it when you're doing high intensity. 30 push-ups. We should all do push-ups every single day. Have you done your push-ups today? We need to be strengthening upper body. When you've done 30 push-ups, you're doing high intensity. Remember, always through the nose, always through the nose. Yes, I did my 30 push-ups this morning. And by the end of your 30 push-ups, you've got your high intensity. High intensity might be running up hills. High intensity might be exercise bike. If you've got a rebounder, you can do high intensity on the rebounder by jogging on the rebounder. My son Peter was doing that. We've got a little dent in our wooden floor now where Peter was doing his high intensity on the rebounder. I said, we'll never forget you and the rebounder, Pete. We've got a dent in the floor. He's a little bit heavier than I am. Recovery time is usually 90 seconds. If you find that your recovery time takes longer, that's perfectly fine. Rome wasn't built in a day. If you can only do 1 or 2 sets of high intensity, so be it, because as you implement this, and reach up to the cycle of 6, you'll find that your recovery time will get less and less. And if you can stick to those times, that's only 15 minutes in a day. That's not long at all. This is the best insurance policy you can make. This is one of the best ways you can, along with everything else we've looked at, is preventing diabetes, but also recovering from diabetes. And I want to take you inside the cell and show you what's happening inside the cell with the high intensity interval training. So to explain this, the 20-step pathway, and we looked at this when we looked at cancer. Remember, it's a very fast pathway. It's consuming sometimes 15 times the glucose compared to the 8-step pathway, which is a slow pathway. But there's a rate-setting enzyme in there that will always keep this one faster and this one slower. So when you're to your end of your first set of high intensity, the 20-step pathway speeds up, the 8-step pathway speeds up, and that's not a surprise. But because they've both sped up and the revs are higher up here, more pyruvate is being made than can be fed into the slower pathway. And so the body stores that excess pyruvate as lactic acid. We've heard of lactic acid. In recovery time, the liver converts that lactic acid back to pyruvate and feeds it into the powerhouse. So when you're in recovery time, what's recovery time? That could be walking slowly down the hill, it could be cycling slowly, maybe it's on the rebound, or it could be just doing the health bounce. That's the health bounce. When you're in recovery time, that's when the liver converts the lactic acid back to pyruvate. So when you're in recovery time, your cells are burning just as much fuel as when you're running for your life, and in recovery time, all the lactic acid is being mopped up. That's why the high intensity interval training is the most powerful form of exercise there is. A lot of trainers are training their athletes, their peak athletes, in this because even if they're going to do a 5K run, this is the best way to train for them, is the high intensity interval training. So when we get to the second set of high intensity, we're getting to the end of the second set, the glycogen stores are being plucked. Maybe by the third set, we've run out of glycogen stores. And so now the brain causes a release of the human growth hormone. The human growth hormone is very active when we're growing. When we stop growing, probably doesn't surprise you to know that I stopped growing when I was 16. When we stop growing, the human growth hormone goes into retirement. But when you get to the point in your high intensity interval training where you're running out of glycogen stores, the brain triggers the pituitary gland to release the human growth hormone, which activates hormone sensitive lipase. And hormone sensitive lipase is the hormone that breaks up fat stores. Lipase is the enzyme in the body that breaks up fat. So hormone-sensitive lipase is released to start releasing fat stores. Remember, that's just our stored fuel. And then the human growth hormone tricks or flips the body over into another form of fuel consumption. It becomes a fat burner. Let me show you why. Glucose. Glucose burns at 4 calories per gram, whereas fat, it burns at 9 calories per gram. What's a calorie? It's a unit of energy. Can you see why the human growth hormone starts burning fat as fuel? Because it's going to give more than twice the units of energy compared to glucose. Because we're moving. The human growth hormone also increases the body's ability to utilise protein. We've looked at the importance of eating sufficient protein. We've looked at the importance of not drinking with your meals, so you're not watering down your digestive juices so you can access that protein. Now we're looking at another aspect, and that is implementing the high intensity interval training every day causes a release of the human growth hormone, which increases your body's ability to utilise protein. The human growth hormone also increases the circulation of the blood to the skin. So it slows down aging. Isn't that good news? The movie stars used to pay, or sometimes some of them still do, pay $1,000 a week for the human growth hormone. I'm offering it to you cut price today. 15 minutes high-intensity interval training a day will cause a release of the human growth hormone, which can remain active for 24 hours. What a bargain. Isn't God good? Aren't the best things in life free? This costs nothing but effort. Make an appointment. If you don't make an appointment, you won't do it. But regarding the diabetic, as you start to do the high intensity with a release of the human growth hormone, something's happening at the cellular level. Extra receptor sites are developing for insulin. Remember what insulin resistance is? Sick of the sight of you. Doing the high intensity interval training, you know what it says now? Actually, we want you more. We need fuel. So insulin resistance can be turned around in 1 week. 1 week by drinking adequate water, by going to the diet that we just explained, which really is the Garden of Eden diet, by implementing the high intensity interval training, can cause a total turnaround of that. So Dan came to us when he was 19. He got diabetes type 1 when he was 15 because he had a bad chest cold and the doctor put him on high dose of very strong antibiotic, which killed the beta cells in his pancreas. So when he came to us at the age of 19, he was on 90 units of insulin a day. In the first week, he didn't tell me this till later, in the first week at our retreat, the first 2 days are juices, it's mostly vegetable juices, and that always balances blood sugar levels nicely. He was getting blood sugar level low in the middle of the night. Why? Well, his 90 units of insulin allowed him to eat that. We didn't serve that. And so now he's on too much insulin, and too much insulin takes the blood sugar level too low. So if he'd go too low, he'd take a candy in the middle of the night, and that would always give him a headache because, boom, gets the blood sugar level up very high. Second week, he felt a bit guilty because he was with us for 4 weeks, so he'd eat an apple in the middle of the night if he got a blood sugar level low. It takes a long time to eat an apple in the middle of the night. But he didn't get the headache. Third week, instead of having, well, he stopped the candies. Instead of having the apple, he'd get out of bed, jump down, and do 30 push-ups. What did that release? His glycogen. And if he needed more, some of his fat cells. He said, why didn't anyone tell me about glycogen? I call it the diabetic's best kept secret. It's glycogen stores. It's already in the muscle cell. He told me that he got up one morning and he's now, our levels on blood sugars are the same as Canada. So he got up in the morning and his blood glucose levels were 3. So you shouldn't go under 5. His were 3. That's nearly passing out. So he had a little bit of the salt. Remember that mineralised salt? Had some water, got dressed, had some more water, put his joggers on and went for a run. Came back, took his blood glucose levels, 9. Where'd that come from? All he'd had is water. And that little bit of salt, those minerals, helped to release it. his glycogen stores and maybe some fat reserves there. He went home after 4 weeks and he was on 10 units of insulin a day. What was he on when he came to us? 90. He said to me, my doctor told me my pancreas was dead. I said, is it gangrene? What's dead? It's either dead or it's alive. Leviticus 17:11 says the life of the flesh is in the blood. If there's blood going to the pancreas, I would like to suggest it's alive. It just needs to be revived. It just needs to be given the right conditions so it becomes a happy pancreas. At the health retreat in Alabama, so this happened probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, we had a man attend our program. I called him Tom. He was 62, and when he came to our retreat, he was in a wheelchair. He said, I can walk, but the problem is recently they took the lymph nodes out of my groin to try and find out why I had diabetes. So when he took the plane trip, his legs swelled with lymph fluid because he'd lost his lymph nodes in his groin. He said, I've spent $1 million on my health in the last 10 years. He was from Florida. He said, I go to the best specialists, but he said, they've just told me they can do no more for me. He was on medication for blood pressure, blood cholesterol, blood thinning. He was on 90 units of insulin a day, short and long acting. He'd been diagnosed as type 1 diabetic. And when he came, his legs were swollen. He said, I won't be able to do the walk with everyone else. I said, no, you're right, you won't. But I said, I want you to get on the rebounder, the little mini trampoline, for 1 minute every hour and just do this. This is called the health bounce. You see, what the rebounder does, it stimulates the lymphatic system, gets it moving. Within 24 hours, the legs had gone down by, I'd say, 60, 70%. He was a very happy man. He started to do some of the walks, not too far, because remember, he's got to be careful of those legs because the lymph nodes are gone. At the end of 2 weeks, he'd gone from 90 units of insulin a day down to 10 units of insulin a day. That's remarkable. Blood glucose levels can be changed very quickly. He stopped his blood thinner, he stopped his blood cholesterol, he stayed on a little bit of blood pressure. Blood pressure usually can take a little bit longer. He emailed me 3 months later. He said to me, I've lost 80 pounds in 3 months. He said, I am off all my medication. This is type 1 diabetic. Off all his insulin. I said, that's impressive, Tom. He said, I swim 30 laps of the pool a day. He said, I cycle for 6 miles a day and I rebound about 3 minutes 3 times a day. And he said, I do exactly what you told me. Because when he came, he said, anything you say, I will do. He said, I went back to my doctor there astonished. He's the CEO of some big companies. He said he went back into the office, he said, watch out, I'm back. When he first got back, he's 62, his wife's 42. She said, this is your baby, I'm not interested, I like my champagne and my croissants. Well, after 3 months, she's having another look at her husband. In fact, he's not grumpy anymore. You see, when the blood sugar levels are low, our brain can only hold a 2-minute supply of glucose. So when blood glucose levels go low, how long does it take before brain's not working well anymore? 2 minutes. And they're grumpy and irritable and bite everyone's head off. In fact, when he said, watch out, I'm back, all the staff went, oh no. But a different man came in, a totally different man, because he now had a brain that's getting consistent, steady delivery of fuel, so his emotions, his mood is different. In fact, he and his wife remarried. She said, I've got a new man. And after 3 months, guess who became interested? His wife did. He emailed me about 5 months later after the first program, and he said, she's doing it. He said she's already lost 20 pounds and she's excited, and all her girlfriends want to know what she's doing. He said, I eat 2 meals a day. Now, what are most diabetics told to eat? Every couple of hours. But even when the stomach's empty, do you know your duodenum is where the nutrients are taken up? And you can keep blood sugar levels balanced quite nicely between meals, even going 5 or 6 hours between meals, by having the salt and the water, that crystal of Celtic salt. In fact, it's called time-restricted eating. You have a look at time-restricted eating. It's the most popular way of eating today. And it's eating twice in a 24-hour period, 6 hours apart. Do you remember Ellen White said in the little book, Counsel on Diet and Food and Ministry of Healing, way back in the late 1800s, 2 meals are better than 3. 5 to 6 hours apart. Isn't it interesting what science is showing today? Now, this time-restricted eating, that's come from the 5-2 diet, the intermittent fasting. You've probably heard of those popular diets today. What they're finding with the time-restricted eating, people are losing weight, blood glucose levels are balancing out, so diabetes is being conquered, and blood pressure, in fact, all these effects, all from the time-restricted eating. What they advocate is eating a main meal at 1 and a main meal at 7, but to me that defies reason. We need to go back to the old saying, breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and tea like a pauper. One lady said, what do paupers eat? I said, sometimes nothing. So I share those 2 remarkable stories with you. We've seen many type 2 diabetics conquer, but these 2 stories, one man was 19, one man was 62, and they both conquered their diabetes. People say to me, you've got so many success stories, Barbara, do you have any failures? Do you know the only failure is on the part of the person to do what you've got to do to get the results.